So, all right, hello everyone. Good evening. Putting it back on presentation mode. All right, I believe that we can also my screen. And welcome to SQL Project Series. This is not the first project series that we're doing. Yep, this is not the first one we're doing. So some of us might be returning for the second one. I mean, we're returning as members of another project series. So we did the Excel project series. I think that was last month. Yeah, it was last month. And that was a crazy experience, right? Because we had to stay as late as 11 o'clock into the midnight trying to work on project that was really difficult and challenging. And it was fun, right? Because we got to explore a lot of things in data analytics from a project side using Excel. All right. So it means that if you're returning, this is just the experience. So people have to leave because they felt like, whoa, this project is complex, it's annoying, it's challenging. And then some people were writing exams in that period for those from some campuses. I think Futa was writing an exam, and then one other campus was writing an exam. So some people could not follow up on the project. Then we also have like people who were new to Excel from the project side. So they just kept feeling like this was intermediate stuff, this was advanced stuff. And the functions that we were writing was very complex, right? More like integrating three, four, five functions together just to get the variable that we were looking for. And then there was data modeling. Whew, it was a lot. Well, I'm glad we went through the experience. And if you're looking for the recording to what I'm saying right now, if you check our YouTube page, you'll find the recordings to this session that I'm talking about, right? It was Excel project series and it was fun, right? We had a separate community from the general community. And I think we had about 50 to 60 persons that were part of that experience. Now we're starting another episode, another series, which is SQL. And I promise you, it's going to be better than Excel because SQL has this feeling that it's used beyond just data analysts. A lot of careers in the tech space are using SQL. So tonight is the launch. What I intend to do with the launch is to introduce to us, is to answer a series of questions that a lot of us are having in our mind, or answer questions to which what we probably are struggling in SQL. All right. So the aim of this workshop that we're going to be doing is to show technical experience with SQL, right? SQL is really technical. Aside from the non-technical side, there is a part of SQL that talks about, understanding the basics, the fundamentals, the concept. So these things are going to be talked about, and the practice are also going to be done, right? So that's one. The second thing that is the aim for this workshop for the next 4 weeks, all right, is how can we use SQL to handle projects? How can we solve problems as data analysts using SQL? How do you build that confidence to know what query to write, what queries to combine, how do you approach a project? These are the things we're going to be looking out for. All right. And then how do you get ready for a job? How do you put your portfolio in order? What are the things that you should, structure in your portfolio? Uh, what should an SQL portfolio look like? How do you combine three, four tools together? How do you combine Excel and SQL together? How do you combine Power BI and SQL together? How do you combine BI tools with SQL to put yourself ready for job interviews and job, recommendations and all? All right. And then guess the best part. The best part is this is going to be a team approach. All right. It means that we're going to be doing this from a team perspective, meaning everyone is going to be part of not necessarily a team, but we're all learning on it together. All right. Meaning every day of class, there's going to be data set to practice. There's going to be assignments. There's going to be assessments on the call. Well, before the end of this slide and presentation, you would understand what I'm saying much better. All right. So just to confirm that we can see every previous reaction. All right. Okay. Well, I'm surprised that people are not yet here because as at when we did the poll on the community, a number of us preferred 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock or 10 o'clock. So, well, let's just see how it goes, right? Well, let's start with the first step. What is SQL? Now, this session is not only for novice and beginners. Yeah. Now, I have 4+ years experience in data analytics. I currently work for a UK company. I've done projects for US based and UK and Canada based companies. I've worked for Nigerian companies as well. I'm currently working 3 data jobs. At the same time, I have my own business as a data professional. I handle data analytics projects. I am a data analytics community manager, meaning I try to help people that are interested in building their skills in data and building, that projects that they need to put yourself in a better position to attract opportunities. We've created 2 study groups which have imparted over 60 people in data analytics, right? Over 60. Actually, the number is 70, but I can only count 60 offhand. Why am I giving you all of these statistics? I'm giving you all of these statistics because the goal for holding this session and other sessions is not to just waste our time, right? I actually don't believe in wasting people's time, and that's the reason why I barely hold events, right? I barely hold workshops. I prefer to have class sessions, mentorship sessions, study group sessions. I barely have sessions where people just come and attend programs for free. I mean, I used to do that before, but I've stopped doing that because I've understood that people are busy and there's a lot of things that we are all committed to. So why waste people time if you're just there to sell instead of helping them get better? So because of that understanding, I've stopped a lot of free programs because if the programs are not to help you grow your career, why do it? If the programs are not imparting you towards the next thing that you need in your career, why go for those programs, right? And that's what I'm trying to say. That this workshop, this SQL workshop, is not to waste anybody's time. I can promise you that. It's to bring people that have been really involved in SQL for the past 2 months plus to who are students of our study group to bring that experience that they've gathered from days of burning on SQL, building projects, putting their portfolio in order, doing presentations to industry leaders. Like, I just want to bring them out of that shell and put them in a platform where they can present their work, where they can teach others, where they can answer technical questions and demonstrate areas that a lot of people are personally struggling on. These guys will help to make things easier because they've had that experience too. That's the whole essence of this platform. So the first thing is to answer the questions that we are asking or probably going online to research. All right, so let's start with it. It's going to be a lot of questions. I'm going to be answering a lot of questions. So this session is going to come like a frequently asked question approach. I'm going to have questions on my screen and then I'm going to give answers to those questions based on my experiences. So by the end of tonight, some of us would have gotten more inspired to learn SQL. Some of us would have really figured out why we're struggling in SQL. Some of us would have also gotten to know SQL. For those that are probably just getting into the world of SQL and don't really know what is really going on. All right. So let's begin. Before I begin, mind indicating that you can hear me and the network is good. So if you can hear me, please reaction button. Still waiting for reactions, just to be sure we can hear me clearly. Still waiting for reaction, just to be sure we can hear me clearly. Yeah, precious, achieve, alpha, Stefan. All right, good. Okay, let's just get into it. SQL, of course, the name already defines itself. Now, some people call it SQL and some call it SQL, right? So whatever name that you refer to it as, it's still the same thing. But SQL stands for an acronym, which you already have read on my screen, which is structured query language. Yeah, I just remember the content that I posted on the community with this national TV. and a minister that was tested. He was talking about database for Kenya, right? He was talking about database for Kenya, and then one of the ministers asked him, "You're talking about database, you're talking about infrastructure. Do you know SQL?" That was funny, right? Because that was like, why are you asking this man if he knows SQL? He's talking about national database and security. And he said, no, answer the question, do you know SQL? Right? And that was the content that somebody cropped out of TikTok and posted. And I saw the content and I was just laughing because I've been looking for that content for a very long time. And that's the truth, right? Understanding SQL is not just knowing what it is, but knowing why you should learn it, right? Because industries and businesses, they have databases. Their database could even be as a file, right? It could be on Google Sheets, right? It could be on a structured database for those that have built a website and has backend. It could even be on the cloud for those businesses that have cloud technology integrated into their applications. Now, these businesses have data, and these data are stored in their databases or somewhere as a file. What you want to do is you want to bring your skills in SQL to interact with the database or interact with the data in the database. And interacting with that data would require that you know how to retrieve information from the database, require that you know how to clean that data in the database, especially when you are going to export the data to build your reports. All right. And as well, answer specific questions from the database to help them understand the kind of data that is coming into their system. This is why SQL is important. Now, when it comes to Excel, when it comes to spreadsheets, there are different spreadsheets too, right? There's Excel, there's Google Sheets, there is WPS, there is LibreOffice. There's a lot of spreadsheet tools. When it comes to BI, there's Microsoft Power BI, there's Tableau, there is Looker, Google Studio. Uh, there is a lot of BI tools that businesses are building for themselves. But guess what? Nobody is building an SQL for themselves. And if they build an SQL application, they will still need SQL to interact with that tool. Even Python cannot write database without SQL. JavaScript cannot write database without SQL. All the JavaScript framework cannot interact with a database without SQL. So you see that SQL is in everything, is in all stuff. So it means as a data analyst, learning SQL is not just for your own self as an analyst, but it allows you to play roles across different industries. But the question now is, how do you position yourself as a data analyst that knows SQL to attract opportunities that fit into those roles? How do you put your project out there that shows that you actually understand this thing, even before anyone should test your skills? These are the things that analysts should focus more on. As for SQL itself, it's a very important skill. Now, do you need a very powerful laptop to install and to write on SQL? Actually, the answer is no. Right? Because SQL can actually run on any system that is a 4 gig RAM or an 8 gig RAM. That's enough for you to start with. Right? You don't even need to be using a very advanced laptop. Even a desktop can run SQL, right? Because it's very flexible and it's basic. SQL is a very basic language that does not require so many things to power it. It just requires that you set up the right environment. But then you need to know the kind of environment that you need to set it up. Now, what are the skills that you need to learn SQL? What are the things that you need, or the things that you're going to be experiencing if you're learning SQL? Very first thing, you have to spend a lot of time understanding terminologies like tables, rows, and field. How do you extract data from the row column? How do you extract column data from the column view, from the row view and the column view? How do you name a table? How do you create a table? How do you delete a table? How do you change the column, the header of a table? How do you replace an information in the table? So understanding table is like everything. You need to understand what a schema is. You need to understand what a table is. You need to understand what a database is. You need to understand how to interact with two or more tables. So these are like one of the first skills that you're going to spend your time understanding. not just the technical side, but you need to understand it conceptually, like from your head. And then when you sit down to code or to write queries, then you also need to understand it from the query side. All right. Another skills is logical thinking. Now, this is where a lot of data guys prefer to use AI to do their job. But if you really want to be good in SQL, you can't be using an AI when you're on interview, right? You're sitting in an interview and you're trying to use an AI. Don't mind those things that you see online where people would have a screen where an AI is on the screen trying to read your interview question. For you to use this kind of AI, you have to be paying for them. Let me be honest with you. You have to pay for those kind of AI tools that allow you to put an AI on your screen and then you do an interview. Now, okay, say for example, this interview is on your laptop or your phone is there, right? Fine, you have escaped that approach of an interview. But don't forget that some interviews they are real time and they expect you to write the query on the go. How would you rely on an AI? So I won't even advise anyone that is learning SQL to rely on AI. The first 2 to 1 month of learning, I would advise you spend time understanding the logical thinking in SQL, how to interact with tables, how to um, pull data from a database, how to export your data from a table. What's even the fastest way to put a data into a database? Do you have to write the data on the screen, or do you import a CSV file into your database? Like, I feel like those are the logical thinking you need to spend a lot of time on. All right. And then if you're going to go further into SQL as a data person, you need to understand basic mathematics. Now you're asking yourself, mathematics in SQL, as now. Well, the truth is, SQL is coding. And if you spend your time understanding the mathematics side, what's the mathematics side of SQL? When it comes to doing calculations, all right, when it comes to not just aggregate functions now, I'm talking about functions like logical functions, functions like time intelligence functions, functions like logical aggregate functions, functions like filter functions, functions like conditional functions, okay, similar to logical functions. Think about functions that you need to be able to run queries that interpret business questions. That one. And then two, interpret your query. Interpret your queries. Now, a lot of data guys they copy query from AI and they don't know how to interpret it. That's a skills that you need to spend time doing what? Building, understanding how to interpret your queries. All right. So even if AI is giving you a query, you need to know how to interpret it. Because there are some interviews that will require that you interpret a particular query. All right, especially if you're going into um, jobs that are actually strong on SQL. I'm sure you've seen some job recommendations with SQL, right? Okay, so another skill is being able to stay consistent in your practice. Now, SQL is not like Excel. If I look at Excel, I know where to go. Okay, if I don't know where to go, I can place my mouse and I'll get some information about that feature. But SQL is not like that. SQL is like programming. You're given a blank sheet and you're told to write a code. Hmm. Meaning, if you don't know what you're doing, SQL will expose that you don't know SQL. Yes, SQL will expose that you don't know your skills as a data analyst. So these are like the first 4 things I think anybody should work on. And then over time, you can now start building on the technical skills. Now, am I too late to start learning SQL as a data analyst too? Especially in an era where AI and SQL and BI is like geniusly taking over the market, right? Well, it's not too late to learn SQL, all right? The people that you see that are good in SQL that you are comparing yourself to, the truth is that they started with a blank screen, right? They all started blank. They had no idea of this thing and they started to learn it. So AI, because there's AI today and there's a lot of support from AI to learn to curve and not expose your weakness in SQL is actually an opportunity to integrate AI on an advanced level. What do I mean? Because AI is around, and a lot of people feel like, if I have an interview, I will use AI to catch up, and I will just prompt some things, and ChatGPT or whatever AI you use is going to expose, is going to bring out some query, and then those queries, I'll just study them. Guess what? When the business question changes, your weakness will be exposed. when you get to projects, your weakness will be exposed. So SQL and AI integration is just there for you to know how to understand the business first and their needs, the questions that your project is asking you, understanding it, and then trying to write the query. And then when you are stuck, you can now go to AI and say, Alpha, can you um, can you optimize this query? That means, is there a shorter way to write this query that I don't know or that I should know? Or why am I running into this error? Can you debug this error for me? That's when AI is in its superhero mode. All right, for a data analyst. That's when AI is in its superhero mode, because now AI is helping you to optimize your query, meaning you've written the query in your own understanding and you did not get it. You've tried and tried and tried and you did not get it. Now AI can now come in and say, okay, this is how you can do it. Then you can now ask the AI, explain what you just suggested, and the AI will explain everything. Now you've understood it. Now you've understood where you're missing. Then you get it. All right. So AI is writing code does not replace humans from that system. It only means that we need to understand the problem better so that AI can be very specific on the kind of solution it places. All right. I said too much on that. Do you actually need to know programming before you learn SQL? No, really. No, really. You actually don't need to know programming before you write SQL. All right. SQL is a beginner friendly.
All right. Okay. I think someone texted me that he could not hear me clearly. So I don't know about now. Can we hear me clearly now? Is it better? Okay. All right. You see, thank you for texting me my DM that you could not hear me clearly. All right. So, do you need to know programming before you write SQL? That's not true, actually. SQL is very, very beginner friendly. So, if you spend time understanding the logic, if you spend time understanding tables, if you spend time understanding the basics, selects and all of the family of selects, where, the, from, the, as, all of that. If you understand those guys, that's a good place to start. All right. So, you don't need to know programming. How long does it take to learn SQL? Well, this is based on the level. If you're not in a beginner level, then you should be looking at learning SQL from an intermediate level. But let's start from beginners level. 2 to 4 weeks with daily practice. All right. If you miss a day, at least 2 days in a row, you should practice SQL. All right. 2 days in a row, you should practice SQL. But if you give yourself 2 to 4 weeks, you can actually learn SQL in a month. All right. I'm talking about the basics of SQL. All right. For an intermediate, you should take 2 months or 3 months to learn SQL with projects. I mean, I'm talking about 3 projects, a minimum of 2 projects. So 2 projects, 3 projects, 4 projects, SQL alone, SQL with BI tools, SQL with Python, SQL with, some advanced application. All right. So intermediate level, 2 to 3 months with project. All right. And then for advanced, at this point, of course, you're not learning SQL just for data analysis. You're learning SQL now for data engineering, for data science, for machine learning, for analytical engineering. So at this point, you should be thinking of SQL for optimization. You should be thinking of SQL for data pipeline, being able to do the ETL systems using SQL. There's a lot of things going on in that space, especially if you're trying to use SQL for data science or machine learning or AI. So even at the point of cloud, maybe you're trying to use SQL in Azure or you're trying to use SQL for Google BigQuery. All right. At that point, you're going advanced. So that one should take you like let's say 3 months as well to go into the advanced level of SQL. All right. Now let's talk about the tools. Of course, some of you are already familiar with these tools. Either is SQLite for those of us that choose to explore SQL online. There's MySQL and PostgreSQL for using SQL offline. There is SQL Microsoft Server if you are a fan of MySQL Microsoft application. Of course, there are some companies that they are strong on Microsoft. So if you want to apply for jobs like that, having SQL Server as one of the application that you write SQL on would increase your chances. And then if you're not using a Windows PC, maybe you're using Linux, or you're using will I say Mac? Yeah, if you're using Mac, if you're using Linux, if you're using Ubuntu, all right, you should be looking at SQL applications like DP Weaver or maybe a PG admin, all right, because it has a lot of configuration around that area, all right. So that's for the tools that we use to do SQL. Let's talk about how many projects should you build in SQL, all right. For those of us that are learning SQL, or maybe those of us from the SQL study group, or that have already graduated from the previous study group, well, I will tell you that your project should not end at the study group. All right. Personally, still keep building projects in SQL, but look for relevant industries. But for a start, I'll tell you, you can start your project from three. At least let there be a minimum project of three on your portfolio. All right. At least one beginner project that your hand is shaking. You're doing cut and join your beginners project. Then maybe one intermediate project where you can show an integration with PI, maybe integrating SQL and Excel, or SQL and Power BI, or SQL and Tableau. And then you can also pick a reward case. A reward case could be, you think of a problem and then you apply a PCL model on that project, more like problem cause solution. That's a PCL model. So you apply a PCL model on that problem, and then you apply SQL as a skills on that project. So if you walk into an interview and you're being asked, have you actually solved a real problem using SQL aside from your projects? Then you can say, oh yes, I did a case study using SQL. The case study was about this, and I used SQL and Power BI to express that solution. All right. There are a lot of open source databases that you can pull data from, and you can use SQL to query them. All right. So that's just on a project level base. Where are the sources of projects? Where can you find data to do your project? All right. Well, everybody knows Kaggle, so I'm just going to skip Kaggle. There are other public sources for data sets. We have the Google Scholar. Yeah, there's a Google Scholar. All right. And there's also some government related database, like, there is the UN Gov, there's the UK, US Gov database, there's the UN Gov database, there's a Canada Gov database. Just put the name of the country, then put Gov, GOV, then put database. All right. You will see a list of government related open source database. All right. So there are quite a lot of databases that are open source by the government. You just need to put the country. I don't know if Nigeria has their own gov data. Like, I don't know if the government is putting together a database. As at the last time I checked, I did not see any gov database for Nigeria, to be honest. All right. To be honest. But if there is, I mean, you can quote me wrong. But as at my last project on government data, that was in February, March, ending of February, early March. I didn't really see Nigerian open source database. I only saw industries that put their data on their sites for you to access it. But those data were not sufficient enough for the data analyst to use. So still comes back to saying those data are not really available for us to use. That's the reason why a lot of our projects, they seem to be, other countries, other nations. I don't know if anybody have noticed what I'm saying. None of the projects that we use as data professionals, they're other countries, other nations. It's just annoying. But then skip that. All right. And then you can also simulate your own data. All right. You can simulate your own business data, maybe using ChatGPT or Gemini or Kimi. And you could even use Perplexity. For those of us that use Perplexity, you could ask Perplexity, give me sources to data in agriculture. All right. And then Perplexity is going to give you sources of data coming from Google, coming from Kaggle, coming from GitHub, projects people have worked on, and the database or the data set is available. Perplexity has that ability to give you that. Yes, one might say Perplexity, one might not say ChatGPT or Gemini. It's because of the way Perplexity is built. Perplexity is like Wikipedia for research. All right. It's just like the AI version of Wikipedia for research. Well, you could Google around it just to be sure of what I'm saying. All right. And then we have this platform called Amazing Data. All right. I mean, sorry, Awesome Data. If you go to this site called Awesome Data, you would find a lot of real industry projects like data. When I stumbled on this site, I was like, oh my God, where have I been? How did I not know this in the first 2 years of my data career? That's because platforms like this, they require a lot of research to stumble on. But then you can check it out. It's actually on Cargo. I mean, sorry, it's on GitHub, right? It's on GitHub. Some collaborators came together and they collected over, if not 1,000 data across different industries, and they put it all together, and the data are on GitHub. But to access the GitHub, the name of the repository is Awesome Data. All right, so you can check that out for those of us that are really interested in that. Okay, let's move away from that. Let's talk about what makes a strong SQL project. All right, I don't know how many of us are still with me. You can use the reaction if you're still with me and network is still good wherever you are joining from. All right, great. Thank you, Jesse. All right, so what makes a good SQL project? Well, a good SQL project should show that you clearly understand the business problem. Mhm. It should show that you clearly understand the problem. I mean, there must be a problem that you're solving with SQL. All right, don't forget that data analysis tools are tools, are means to an end. They are not the end. They are the means to an end. So it means that your understanding of the end, which is the decision that the business is trying to make, and how these tools can help you answer those business questions or the industry questions. That's what would show that you have a strong SQL understanding. All right. And then you should also be able to show or demonstrate a clean query. Some of us, when we write SQL, we actually don't observe spaces, we don't observe comments, we don't observe, breaking our queries in lines. You know those line thing in SQL, right? Where you have select from where and everything is like on the same line. And there's some professionals came up and said, oh no, don't write SQL that way, put it in a structured way. Let all the commands start every line. So select should be in the first line, and then from should be in the next line. Then I don't know if anybody can relate to what I'm saying, or am I just the one that is speaking from my experience? All right, there are a lot of recommendation on how to write a clean SQL. So you probably want to keep that in mind, because if your project can really show that, then that is actually a good SQL project. All right, and then can you represent insights, and do you give recommendation in your project? All right, and what's your documentation skills like? If we go to your portfolio on an SQL project that you've done, can we like see the documentation and it's compelling to show that you're dedicated, you're patient, and you're very detailed? These are the soft skills that these guys look at when they look at your project. Your skills, your project reflects your skills. So you want to keep that in mind. All right. Now, let's talk about if SQL is enough. Is SQL enough to get a job? Well, that's not true. SQL is not enough to get a job, right? You need PI tools, all right? You need to also show that you know how to use spreadsheet tools. That's why moving to intermediate project is very good if you're working with SQL, which means that you need to know how to use Excel or Power BI or Tableau the to build reports for the data that you scraped out of a database using SQL. All right, so it's not enough. It's not enough. Now, why does someone else seems to be getting faster and more proficient in SQL than me? Or is it just me? Well, it's not true. It's because you've not really understood some basics. All right. You're struggling with understanding some basics, some technical and conceptual things. All right. And as well, you're not practicing with real data. All right. Maybe you're just using small data sets that are provided on some of these open source websites where you can write SQL. All right. If you've taken data camp courses, you discover that SQL has a place on data camp application, right? Can anyone confirm what I'm saying? Have anyone taken any data camp course? Data camp has SQL on their website. So the data set that you're practicing on that site is just too small for you to show how strong your SQL skills is. So if you see another person's project and the person seems to like really know this thing and you feel intimidated, well, it's because you've not actually practiced on a real data that is complex and mature. You're spending time on small data sets. So that's why you feel that way. And maybe you're spending time trying to memorize context. I mean, you're memorizing syntax instead of applying it. All right, give me a second, guys. All right. Okay, can we still hear me? You can still hear me. You can use the reaction button. I think the weather is becoming funny and network seems to be fluctuating as at now. Can anyone hear me? All right, good. So let's talk about the next thing. Why can many write queries but cannot solve business problem or easily secure data job? Yeah, this is actually a very interesting question, right? Why does it look like we cannot really solve business questions even though we use the tools, all right, even though you're good in Excel or Power BI or SQL, when it comes to like real business questions, you're struggling to know how to approach them. Well, the truth is you're stuck in something called tutorial trap. Yeah. You're stuck in something called tutorial trap. A tutorial trap is when a data person is so engrossed in learning and not building or practicing with a real data set or a simulated data that represents a real data. That's one of the challenges. All right. If you're in that space, I think what you should do is for now, stop the learning. All right. That's for those of us that have learned and we're still struggling. Oh, but if you're just starting, please spend time in that tutorial. All right. Spend time understanding that tutorial. Spend time asking questions. If you have access to, you know, the mentors or the coaches to ask questions, spend time understanding the questions. But if you've learned and you discover that, okay, I've taken courses or I seem to know SQL, but I'm not able to solve problems. Well, the truth is you should not be spending time in tutorials. You should spend time more on projects. All right. You should spend time on project because one thing project is going to do is that they're going to expose your knowledge of the basics and the fundamentals. It's also going to expose your ability to think. It's going to expose your ability to solve problem within a time frame. Because no project should last forever. A project should either be 2 weeks, 1 week, a month. So when you go into projects, these are the things that it will expose you to. So if you feel that you cannot solve business problem or you can actually get jobs, I think don't spend time learning, spend time trying to build projects. All right, that's one. Now let's talk about the part where it comes to securing jobs. All right. Now, to get into job opportunity, it's not something you just wake up and find yourself in jobs. Let me be honest with you. You prepare towards it. What does it mean to prepare into a data job? One, one, you're not learning or growing in the dark. You're not growing in the dark, meaning your work is out there. What does it mean for your work to be out there? It means that if someone should stumble on your page, they should see data related things. If someone should stumble on your WhatsApp status, they should see that you're always talking about data on your WhatsApp. Your friends should know you're a data analyst. Your family members should know you're a data analyst. Your village people should know you're a data analyst. Now, yes, it may sound very, very, I don't know how you're saying what I'm saying, but that's the first thing. People should know you're into data. When they see the more of your work is into data, it kind of increases trust and recommendation, right? That's because there are different ways to get into data jobs. It can come from recommendation, it can come from constantly applying for jobs. It can come from research, it can come from anything. Jobs are not static. they are always changing because the opportunities these days, the bar has been raised. So you want to be very intentional about your own skills, not about the jobs, first of all. Of course, if you've been constantly, building projects, putting it out there, connecting with people and saying, hey, what's up? I saw something you posted about this. I'm into data. I'm into this side of this thing from a data perspective. Do you mind if we could work together? Do you mind if I can intern with your organization? Even though there's no opportunity, can I just intern with you guys? Or that's it. Like, that's it. You Even with the internship that you think, there are not jobs that are saying, oh, we are hiring intern. No, 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 no. Internship is you looking for someone that's into an industry and has like different um and the person is showing different things that are in that industry. And then you now tell yourself, okay, how can I get into this space as a data person? Even if you have projects that are good enough for a job, start with an intern opportunity with that person or with that industry. All right. Imagine that. Okay, I'll tell you a story of something that happened to me. One of the jobs I have in the UK. I'll tell you how I got it. Right. One of my friend posted something on WhatsApp, and I don't know. I don't check WhatsApp status that easily, but I stumbled on his WhatsApp status, and I was like, "Yo, bro, what's up? How is this thing like?" And he was like, "Well, they are actually looking for people that are into this role and into this role." I said, "Okay, thank you for that." So I took the email. In fact, it was an email that you will forward your CV to. I went through those emails that will say David at google.com, right? I mean, sorry, David at Amazon, hiring at Google. So I went to go and look for this David guy on LinkedIn, right? And I saw that he talks about a lot of things in the UK market, in the UK job. So I connected with him on LinkedIn, and it took him a long time to reply me, but he did reply, right? And the first time he replied, guess what? I actually sent him two projects that I have done, and I begged him if he could give me just 5 minutes to have a call with him on LinkedIn. And he told me, his schedule is very tight. He cannot afford that, but he's going to go through my project and he's going to come back. Between that time that he said he was going to go through my project and he was going to get back to me, I had to go back and tweak my project to align with what he was looking for, which is fintech related project. All right. So I went to go and do a fintech project within 2 days. So while he was taking his time to get to that project that he was working on, I sent him the fintech project. So when he saw e-commerce project, when he saw edutech project, and he saw a fintech project, he didn't even care to click the other ones. He clicked on the fintech project. So when he saw the project, he said, "Okay, we can have a 5 minutes call on Saturday by so time." And that was how we had the call. That was it. That was it. And so we had that call, and on that call, I was not really showing him my skills. I was asking intelligent questions regarding to his industry and what the data side looked like. For the first 3 minutes, I was just asking him questions because he had gone through my project portfolio. So he could already tell the kind of skills I had. So he was now asking me, why am I asking this question? And then that was what now exposed me telling him what I was looking for and what I could do. And then he was like, oh, okay, okay, okay. I think there's an opening in this role, but let me get back to you on it. Right. And guess what? He got back to me on it, and I got a mail like 2 days later if I was open for an interview, and I said yes. And then we had an interview. Right. Now, why am I telling you this story? That's exactly what I'm saying. Your online presence should always reflect what you're doing, and look for the people online that you can connect with. If you can sit down and say, okay, before the week passes, I want to look for two other persons or two more persons in so role that I have projects that align with those rules. Because you don't want to start building projects just because you're trying to look for someone that align with that industry. But you want to look for someone that has interest in the project that you have done. Right. And then when you connect with them, just send them your project. Send them your project. Don't even start doing hello, how you doing? Hope you are fine. I'm a data analyst. See, don't do that. Just send them your portfolio. Then follow up on them if they have checked your project out. All right. After a while, they will respond to you. If that person is not responding to you, find another person. All right. Keep finding people, keep finding until you get it. All right. And when you get that job, you would be able to tell the story. And then your eye will open to other opportunities still in that market. All right. So that's how it kind of works. That's how it kind of works. It's there's no magic around it. I spent too much time on that question. Let's move away. How do you overcome SQL when you're learning SQL? How do you overcome that challenge? Well, I think you need to practice daily with real data. All right, you need to practice daily with real data. You need to start by solving little problems, such as maybe problems that have to do with importing data or working with an online tool. I think it was the second SQL study group that we started to explore online platform that can allow us to interact with SQL. And then we started integrating BI with SQL. And that's the whole idea with your experience if you're building an SQL skills. All right. You need to have problems that you can solve or that you have solved that shows that you use SQL to solve that problem. All right. And then you need to focus on understanding because when the opportunity comes, I can bet it with you that opportunity is coming to test your understanding of SQL, not to really test your ability to memorize SQL. All right. So don't fall for memorization, fall for understanding. Like try to understand it. All right. So why do tutorial feel very easy, but project feels hard? Let's answer this question. Why do tutorial feel easy, but projects feel hard? Well, the truth is, tutorials are like walking into a room where your loved ones are, and everybody just gives you that smile. But projects are like walking into a room of business owners, and nobody gives a two spoons of who you are. Nobody cares who you are. If you walk into a room full of strangers, nobody cares who you are. But if you walk into a room where your loved ones are, your friends are, somebody will smile at you. Somebody will say, hey, come over, come over, come over. Come sit down here. You know, how you doing? How was your day? Ain't nobody gonna ask you those kind of questions when you walk into strangers. All right. Even if you look good, they might just check you out and remove their eyes. And if somebody wants something from you, they will just walk up to you and they will just act, they'll just play their game. So projects are the real thing. Tutorials are not the real thing. So if you're taking time learning, learn faster and quickly get on projects. That's what I was saying. All right. Learn faster, quickly get on projects. All right. Now that's all on all the questions that I have to answer. But I feel like I've actually answered the most questions. And then another thing too is community. Like being a community where you have access to somebody or people that you can ask questions or programs that are actively created to help you learn and build your skills. That's where community comes in. And that's what we're trying to do with this platform. All right. We're trying to build this platform in a way whereby we can have lessons that are structured on a weekend base. We can have practice projects where each of us can, try to do some practice on our own and then join the call and, have corrections and learn new topics that are very fundamentals in SQL. All right. We also are going to be having like assessment quizzes on the call. All right. Assessment quizzes on the call, meaning after every call, there's going to be a quiz that's going to test your understanding of that session that you just attended. All right, so it's going to be very fun and interactive. There's going to be projects on this program. All right, we're going to be having these professionals. Okay, I won't say that they're professionals. I will say that they are also learners like you, but they've been able to overcome some aspect of SQL and they just want to be on the call and share that knowledge. That's what these project series is about. So we're going to be having project to practice with. You're going to also be learning with other people. So you can easily reach out to anybody that you connect here and you can say, hey, what's up? I'm trying to do this thing before the next meeting on Saturday. Have you done yours? Are you struggling? Or somebody can post a solution and you can reach out to him and say, Alpha, how did you figure this out? Do you mind if we have a call? Do you mind if you guide me on how you did yours? That's what I mean paired collaboration. So you can reach out to other colleagues in the community and you can get guidance. All right. And then you can also share what you're learning on LinkedIn, meaning you can also use your online presence. You can also build your active presence online with what we will be doing here on this platform. All right. So these are the things that we're looking forward to do on this platform. All right. It's going to be very interesting. If you've attended SQL study group, imagine SQL study group on a platform that is once in a week. That's what this is going to look like. I'm not going to ask us for our time. And I know a lot of people are going to start the platform and they're going to drop. It's free, okay? So we're not asking anybody to pay for anything, but we're just saying show up and learn from other SQL study buddies. And for the study buddies that are going to be part of this program, please, when you show up on the platforms, pay more attention to the people that are on the call, all right? Even if you've prepared something that you're going to do, make sure that the people on the call really know what I like. Ask questions like, where are we on SQL? Are we just starting? Are we novice? Are we beginners? Ask these questions so that you can now know how your practical class is going to go. All right. I'm saying this generally because the lessons are going to be very specific to those that join the call. All right. So what are you expecting in this platform? What am I expecting from you actually? For you that is going to be joining this platform with us, I expect consistent practice. All right, that's the only way you're going to learn SQL, by practicing. If you join this Saturday and you don't practice in SQL for 1 week and you come the next Saturday, it's going to look like when NEPA flashlights. Like, you cannot quickly reach to your phone if NEPA flash the lights. Like the way NEPA flashes the light is just professional, right? These guys have learned a lot of, you know, professional approach to flashing lights, and you cannot catch them. You cannot catch them. So that's how it will look like if you don't practice during the week. All right. So you want to take the time to practice during the week before another Saturday of this call. All right. It's going to be open to the whole community. So you want to try to do that. Another thing is there's going to be a lot of practical discussion. All right. People are going to be asking questions, and our coaches that's going to be joining the platform to do the training are going to be available to answer this question. I will also be available to answer these questions. All right. So it's not just going to be us. All right. It's going to be, I'm also going to be in these sessions as well. It will not be favorable for me, but I'll try as much as to be available on all the calls to answer these questions. There's going to be assignment submission on a Google Drive. All right. And some of the assignments are going to be required that you submit them on GitHub. All right. Meaning you will post this assignment solution on GitHub, and then I will give feedback regarding to your assignments, and then you make the corrections on GitHub. And that's how you're going to be building your project on GitHub. All right. So you want to be in these sessions because they're going to really build not just you, but your online presence as well and your portfolio page. It could be GitHub or any platform that you use as your portfolio. So one of the things is you need to be willing to learn. All right. I know for some of us, our schedules are very tight. I mean, right now we are doing so many things and we're trying to be here, or this hour was not favorable, but because probably it was because it was SQL and you chose to join, or you saw my face on the flyer and you decided to honor the invitation. Thank you very much. But you need to come in to be willing. You have to be ready to improve your skills. All right. This is just going to be for 4 Saturdays. After 4 Saturdays, the program would withdraw, and you're not going to hear from us again regarding to SQL project series, except maybe in another quarter. All right, maybe in the third quarter or in the fourth quarter. But this is just going to be for 4 weeks. 4 weeks. All right. So you want to join this platform so that you can, be part of what we're building. All right. Every week there's going to be assessment. There's going to be project, and you're going to be submitting project. There's also going to be project presentation. All right. There's also going to be project presentation. So you want to look out for that. Each person is going to be building their own skills. It's not going to be on a team level. Right. I've also learned that sometimes team projects can slow us down. And I don't want anybody to say, oh, my team is not there. We are 2 weeks ahead. We are 5 days. I don't really want that for this platform. So the projects are going to be individual level. So your job is to join, pay attention, ask questions, practice, and then get the best out of the platform. All right. And that is it for this session. All right. Tonight is just to launch the platform. I'm going to take questions for the next 5 minutes. and then by 10:05 we should be out of here. All right, thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. I hope I was able to answer some questions that you had in mind for those of us that had questions about SQL. And if any of the tips I gave did help you, please don't just listen to them. Try to practice it. Try to put them into practice, because that's how you're going to really get better in your skills, all right? By practicing these things. Like I said, I don't want to waste anybody's time. And that's the reason why I just changed the approach of the session to be a question approach, Q&A approach, Q&A approach. All right. Question. Any question? Any more questions? I mean, I've done many questions. I've answered so many questions already from the call. So let me just ask you guys if you have questions to add to the ones on the screen. All right. Any question? If you have a question, you can raise your hand. If you have a question, you can raise your hand and I'll call you and you'll be able to ask your questions. And in the next 5 minutes, we should be out of it. Question, 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 question. Any more questions to the ones I have asked and answered? All right. So it seems like everybody is good. So we're starting on Saturday next week. So our next meeting is going to be on Saturday by 9 o'clock. It's just for an hour. All right, an hour, maximum of an hour. All right. We're just going to take an hour to practice SQL, and we hope that in 1 month your skills should improve and you should get better in SQL. Yeah, Emmanuel, your hand is up. Yeah, you could just ask the question. Thank you.
All right. Sorry, sir. For someone who is just coming in as a data analyst into an organization, and then you're presented with the data sets and everything, you said something about identifying the problems of the problem the organization is trying to solve. Now, as a data analyst who is just coming in and seeing the data set, how do you get to like just see the data set and understand, okay, this is the problem they're trying to solve? Is it that you have to ask um, probably anyone you're working with that what is going on here or what? I don't seem to understand how you just get to know the
Oh,
problem
okay.
you're
All
solving.
right. That's good. That's actually a very good question. I like the fact that you've already given a context, which is if you work for an industry or an organization as a data person, how do you get to solve or answer business questions or the organization questions? Well, first thing is, who is your downline? The downline is the person that you report directly to. If you're reporting to the boss himself, well, just know that you're going to solve a lot of business problem, right? Because you're going to be playing all the roles, right? But if your downline is maybe the team lead or the HR, first of all, know your downline. Your downline is the person that you report to directly, because that's the person that's going to help you navigate through how to play your role better and increase your chance of getting promotions or attracting more opportunities in that company. Now, this downline, your job is to reach out to this person on professional base, all right, and approach them in a way whereby this is how you ask them. Okay, I'm new here and I want to contribute as much as. Now, some jobs, they will have given you your job description. All right. They will tell you they expect weekly reports, they expect monthly reports, they expect daily reports. They will say, oh, we have projects or we have partners or we have clients, and these are the data that you're going to be giving. We want you to use to give us information that can help us make decision on so, 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 and so. So the person that is your downline will give you all the information that you need. All right. If they don't give you, ask questions. Ask questions regarding to what is the organization trying to achieve this month. All right. Be very specific on the time zone, like timeline. I mean, timely goals. Sorry. Be very specific on timely goals. What problem or what is the goal for this month? What is the organization trying to achieve this month? And then the person will tell you, we're trying to increase sales. We're trying to, improve this. We're trying to do this. We're trying to do that. Then you can now ask yourself, okay, or you can ask the person, how can I contribute to this? All right. And if you don't want to ask the person, you can say, oh, I think I can contribute to this. That's if you're able to understand what the goals are, then you can tell yourself, okay, this is how I can contribute to this month, to the goal for this month. Right. And then you sit back and you design something, a small thing, maybe some of the things that you feel you can do. You could ask ChatGPT or any AI, My company is trying to do this. This is what the company is about. How can I contribute to them? Then ChatGPT will give you different ideas. Be very realistic. Look at the things that it's giving you. Look for the ones that align with the company. Then submit it to that person. It should be very short to 1 page. Don't make it 2 pages. Because if it's 2 pages or more, it might just they might feel like you're doing too much or something. All right, just 1 page. The person will go through it and say, "Oh, okay, okay. I think you're right here. You can contribute in this way. You can contribute in that way. And this one that you wrote in number two, yes, 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 you can contribute here. All right. And then you can ask them, are there data sets already on ground regarding to this? Or how do we go about the data? All right. And then the person would give you more information about their data. And if there's no data, then you can now start to, move around, create survey, collect information from them, one-on-one questions, one-on-one interviews. That way you can gather the data and then you can put those data together to create a report and then you can submit it. That way you're becoming valuable to the organization. That's when they've not given you, or maybe the organization is not structured enough to give you every information that you need. But if the organization is structured, they'll give you your job description. You're going to be doing this, you're going to be doing that. They'll give you a downline. You're going to be reporting to this person, you're going to be reporting to that person. When they have meetings on a weekly basis, maybe it could be a stand-up, then you can ask questions in those meetings. Regarding to my job, I'm trying to know how to do this. I need guidance. The person will now say, okay, reach out to Mr. David. He has more experience in this area. Already, that's how they feel your presence in the organization. And you're already they're already recognizing you as a person that is interested in contributing to the organization. So that's how you can go about it for that kind of scenario that you mentioned. I don't know if that looks like something that you can try. Then if you're struggling as well with implementing this, you can reach out to me and I can ask you more specific questions on what it is you're trying to achieve, and then maybe you figure it out better. This is just generic to the question that you asked.
Thank you very much, Coach.
All right. Okay, so I've taken too much time. I'm sorry, guys. I'm actually very sorry. I have to go now and I have to let us go and returning you back to your loved ones or whatever you were doing before you joined this call. All right, guys. Thank you so much for creating the time to join. I hope this session was insightful and it was helpful. I hope you learned one or two things. The goal is not to learn these things, it's to look for where you can apply them. And if you're joining us for the first time, welcome to our community. Sorry we did not welcome you officially. We just wanted to be sure that you're here to learn and you're not just here on a WhatsApp group. A lot of people just join WhatsApp groups just for joining sake. I don't like that. If you're not in a group to learn, just leave. Just leave the group. Right. If you're not there to learn, just leave. All right, guys. This is 10:10 West African time. For those of us using other time zone, have a lovely evening, guys. Have a beautiful rest of your night. And I will talk to us in the community. Looking forward to your feedback regarding to this platform. Good night, guys. Bye for now.